I know a lot of my other friends who are biracial have had these struggles.
You look prestigious no matter what, they're gonna look at you.
My mom, I think that was the first time she realized the world saw me as black.
Fear from racism is unacceptable.
I can remember twice I was called the N-word by passing trucks.
What's up guys, Anna here. Recently the world has been finally shining a light on the racism that's been actively present throughout all of our lifetimes. So I just wanted to take a second to talk about what real activism looks like. The other day somebody called me tone deaf for working on a pride video during these times with queer people from all around the world, which by the way is going to be the next video I post, so look out for that. But I just wanted to explain that there's different ways to show that you support a movement. First of all, that video is going to give queer black people a voice. Secondly, that same day I spent a good amount of time talking with my roommate about this movement, shared lived experiences that I know of, and spitballing possible steps to a solution that can be taken. I also sent out resources via email to educate people, and all of this in the privacy of my own home. I don't say this for recognition or to be praised, but to show what activism actually looks like. In college, I was in a relationship with someone who is black for 3 years, and we experienced our fair share of racism for being an interracial couple. My sister experienced her first bout of racism when she was in 2nd grade. My niece has dealt with racism her whole life, even though she doesn't always know it, and she's still in grade school. And 2 of my really good family friends, whom for all intents and purposes are family because they come to all of our family events and we treat each other as such, have experienced an uncountable amount of racism. My point here is that it's not only a random black person that I know who I'm standing up for, although I am standing up for them as well, but it's people that I care and love deeply for, so this cause is very close to my heart. I've seen nearly everyone I know supporting this movement on social media, and that includes people that I know are racist, whether they're aware of it or not, and people that I've actually called out for saying or doing racist things before. Now, I think sharing info, messages, and showing your support online is great, but if you're not doing the real work in your real life, it means nothing. How many of you have actually tried to educate yourself? How many of you have had insightful conversations with your family and friends, and particularly listen to your black family and friends to try to understand as best you can what this world is like? I just say this because it really bothers me thinking about how people who have been very loud on social media are gonna act in a few weeks when the protests cease, and how really nothing is gonna change in their lives. And that's because of them, because they aren't making any changes in their lives. A lot of people seem to be treating this as a fad, and the reason I say that is because I know before they weren't supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, but now because everybody is, they are. To say saying nothing takes the side of the oppressor should apply not only to your social media, but to your real life. I wanted to tell a little story about the shirt that I'm wearing. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a Black Lives Matter shirt. And I actually got this at a place that I worked. Basically what happened is the client had sent this to us as a gift, and the person whose office it was sent to didn't want it. So they picked up the shirt, showed it to everyone on one side of the floor, and said, anybody want this Black Lives Matter shirt? And I waited a second, gave it a beat to give the couple black people on the floor a chance to say if they wanted it, because I felt like they deserved it first. Nobody said anything. That includes the entire floor, most of which is white. So I was like, I'll take it. And the person responded, oh, we've got an activist on our hands. And I stood up and said, yeah, I am. And I walked over and I got it and I walked back to my desk. Everyone just kind of looked at me oddly. Some people there I know supported it as well, but they didn't want to stand up and say anything. And that really bothered me. And now what's bothering me is the fact that those same people are posting a black square on their Instagram and calling it a day, or even just reposting Black Lives Matter supportive posts, but they aren't actually doing anything in their real lives that's going to have an effect. If you are somebody who is mainly supported on social media, consider this your call to action to take the fight offline and make a real change. Have the conversations, educate yourself, listen to black voices and amplify them. Support black businesses, support your black friends and family, people in your community, and people all around the world. Not just this week or next, but for the rest of your life. Make a change and be the change. This is something that should have happened a long time ago, but better late than never, I suppose. In the description, you'll find links to educate yourself and links to donate to several different areas of this movement. I know there's a lot of queer people here, so since in-person prides have been canceled, I would urge you to take the money that you were going to spend at those and donate to some of the places that I've listed below. Additionally, if you're in the Los Angeles area, there's going to be an LA Pride hosted protest supporting the Black Lives Matter movement on June 14th, and there's more details on that in the description as well. I'm gonna be there and I hope to see you there. This is a cause I've supported for a long time, and I'm glad that other people are finally coming onto the train, but it needs to be in the right ways. And now that I've had my rant, I figured it's a good time to actually do one of those things that I mentioned and amplify some black people's voices. So here are some of my black friends talking about their lived experiences.
When I was 11, I moved from the Midwest to Texas, and my parents decided that my sisters and I really needed to go to a good school. And it was all white, pretty much. I could probably count on my hands the number of black people who went to my school. And we had just moved to Texas, and I was preparing going to test for the gifted and talented classes. I took the tests and I passed. Oh, look at that. I passed all of them because you take one for each subject. And the person running the gifted and talented courses informed my parents that I would not be allowed to join the gifted and talented classes. My mom was furious, understandably so, and she spent weeks calling the school, emailing the school board, trying to figure out why I wasn't being allowed into these classes, trying to fight for me to get into the classes. And it was like a significant amount of effort and time on her part just to get me into the classes that I had already tested into. Eventually, they let me in, but I do remember this one phone call that I overheard where my mom was trying to get them to tell her a reason why I wasn't being allowed into these classes. And one of the things that the lady on the phone said was, "We're just not sure she'll be prepared for the classes. We're not sure she'll succeed." Okay. So, I think that was the first moment that I realized I was black. I mean, not like intellectually black, because I knew I was, but like actually a black person. As an 11-year-old girl, I didn't understand why I wasn't being allowed in when all the other people who had tested into these courses were being allowed in. It's funny because I look back on that now and I think my mom, who's white, I think that was probably the first time she realized that the world saw me as black too.
Hello, my name is DUANE. I don't even know where to start. It's difficult to talk about because usually as a black person, I've always kind of kept this part of me down. I never wanted to come off as, that black person who talked about it too much or pushed it in people's faces too much or played the race card too much. And it finally feels like a time that I have a voice and that other black people feel as though they have a voice, and it's empowering and it's invigorating and it's something that I never even knew I craved because I guess it was pushed down so much. Definitely the lion's share of the racism I've experienced has been microaggressions. I think I can remember twice growing up when I was called the N-word by passing trucks. I'm biracial, I'm Mexican, and I'm also Jamaican, so I'm half black. I felt like I was put into a racial category that no one had ever really taught me about or how to deal with. I think it was James Baldwin who said, to be conscious and black in America is to be in a constant state of anger. I may be mincing his words, but I get that. I really do. Because if you are conscious of the things that go on here to black men, women, black trans men and women, it's heartbreaking. It feels like you're less than human. And I have a lot of people asking me how I am right now. And it's just, I think non-black people expect me to be angry or sad or scared right now. But I don't think people understand is that at least I've felt this every day of my life. This isn't something new. If anything, I'm prouder and happier and more motivated because I'm getting a voice, which I never had before. So I'm not sad right now. I'm not scared. I think I'm excited for the change. Also, I've learned that checking myself during this time is that I'm privileged. And I think people need to recognize that, is that, we all have certain privileges. I'm a lighter skinned male who is cisgendered. We need to love, respect, uphold, and uplift each other. This isn't every man for himself, everyone for himself. I need to uplift black trans women. I need to uplift black women. I need to uplift darker skin. That's like the biggest takeaway I'm taking away from this. It feels like you're alone, but you're really not. It's June now, and I'm a gay man. And I really encourage everyone who is gay and non-black to really just help. Spread the word, donate, protest with us. Because I'm gonna be completely 100 with you guys. Being a black gay man in the gay community, a lot of the time I don't feel welcome. So just use this time to uplift us.
Hey, this is ALLEYAH Brown, aka AB Limitless from Instagram. I was born here in Georgia, in Decatur, so I mostly grew up around black people, and I had a cool childhood. Like, you have some shootings, things like that, stealing your bike, all that stuff, but I feel like for most black people, that is just like part of your neighborhood because you're in a bad area and you still feel like y'all are family. I moved to Texas though when I had some stuff going on with my family, and that's when it really got weird. I moved to a place called Mansfield, Texas, which was the last city in Texas to desegregate high schools, and you could feel it. The first day I went to school there, I remember my mom told me to wave at everybody, and people didn't even wave back. Like, they just kind of looked at you. I used to feel bad for even walking in stores. Like, I really got over this like 2 years ago, walking in stores because people look at you different because you're black. No matter if your pants are pulled all the way up, you look prestigious. No matter what, they're gonna look at you, and it sucks. I think it's not that they don't understand our impression with my white friends. It more so goes into stuff like at the house. Black people have like these codes, these rules, and things you just don't do. They're more like common sense stuff to us, but like sometimes you can bring white people over with things like that, and they'll say things that are a little extreme, or, you know, do some things that are extreme in your family, like, you know what I'm saying? That's probably the biggest thing. But now, overall in general, I do feel like more white people are really coming to light. I think when we focus on the color of white versus black, when we empower that, we give that more energy, we feed that divide instead of just bringing it together like, oh, that's just another human being whose skin happens to be white. But I think white people's best thing they can do is, like everybody's saying, you know, use your privilege to the advantage of all mankind. Don't be that person that's just using your privilege and pretending to not see it because it's very obvious. I'm more so realizing it now that I subconsciously picked up this mindset of feeling inferior to white people or feeling bad, like I have to control some part of myself, some part of my truest self, maybe my accent, my slang, things like that, because it makes them uncomfortable. And that's not true. You know, we do our own thing, you're you. So I would say real activism looks like you, because everybody's brought here for a purpose. So as soon as you tap in and manifest to the clear eye what the visions and dreams you have from your childhood or in your mind are, and they're constantly repeating and they're good to contribute to the world, that is what activism looks like. Because we can protest all day, which is great, people coming together, but the biggest thing that would save humanity is us tapping into our true potential of ourselves and putting that onto the plane and making the places where people can be held, making the places where black people can come and be a community, can talk about political issues and things like that. Love.
My name is O'Neal, @Read with O'Neal on my social media platforms. You want to check it out. I got some videos kind of on this topic, you know, in the past couple weeks. Really what I want to touch on with this topic just really quick is the problem with colorism. My own perspective in my own life, what I had to deal with being in the black community, but almost not being in the black community at the same time, depending on who you ask. I know a lot of my other friends who are biracial have had these struggles growing up, being part black, part white, and part bunch of other stuff. It's hard to find that identity. I have that conflicting when I was growing up, just not knowing who I was, what my identity was. Was I a black person? Was I white? Was I just a person of color? I went to a school with Anna that was predominantly white, and so you're in another culture that, for at least for myself, was kind of different from my own families. And not saying that my family was just like completely stereotypical black, but at the same time, I would see the contrast, the difference between seeing my family originally from Buffalo, New York, and being with my buddies, having a lot of white friends, black friends of course as well, but how I operate, how I navigate through those different cultures. I would say that even during now, rest in peace, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, everybody. It comes down to stereotyping. It comes down to not being respected in the community that you live in. And I can relate with that. And not necessarily saying that I was disrespected. I'm the type of person that I will never take any disrespect from nobody, but at the same time, I understand that there's a specific view that people have on you that's preconceived from different stereotypes. And so really what I want to tell you, and I'm speaking to white people right now, is do not allow preconceived stereotypes create a view for somebody that you've never met. If you want to learn more about a culture, go and find those people. If you want to learn more about black people, gay people, Hispanics, Asians, it's not enough to just hear about it. It's not enough to just watch on the news and see the stereotypes that you've seen on movies and videos and games and things like that. You need to go out and actually seek out those people in those communities. I know for myself, what I was lucky enough to have is not only from my family side and my friend's side, but of course I played a lot of sports, so I was around a lot of black people, so I kind of was able to mold, adopt, or adapt from the little cultures within my own identity, my own personality. So it's difficult to live in a society that you might have to form in a culture that you might not be comfortable in, that might be different, that differs from where your family came from. And that's what black people have always had to do in this country. We're called a minority for a reason. Now, we are the largest group of minorities outside of Hispanics in the South, but at the same time, we've always been looking like second-class citizens. We always seem like we're outside looking in, and that's where black people get frustrated with the system. We always seem like foreigners in a country that brought us over in chains. We are American. Our culture was stripped, our language was stripped, our religion was stripped, everything, our identities as a people were stripped away from us, and we were molded back up from an oppressive standpoint. But from there, once the shackles broke, we had to re-identify ourselves as someone else. And I always say that black Americans are the true Americans next to Native Americans, because we came from absolutely nothing, from the dirt. So we had to create something. That's why our culture is so influential, because our culture has been born and bred from oppression. And so now it's influencing everything from music, movies, and things like that, slang, how we operate with one another, social media. Black Twitter is a huge thing. So really want to tell y'all is that there's a reason that black people are frustrated. There's a reason that black people feel like they're foreigners in a land that brought them over in chains. That needs to end. Those stereotypes, those preconceived notions about different racial groups needs to end in this country, because at the end of the day, we're going to erode our institutions from our sins, and the sins of racism and prejudice and bigotry will destroy this country.
My name is Anthony. My message today is very simple. Fear based on racism is unacceptable, and we need to change that. I hope you have a blessed day, no matter who you are, whether your creed, race, gender, identity, I don't care. I hope you spread some positivity, and I hope you're staying safe during COVID, as well as just throughout your daily life. That's all I have to say. Fear from racism is unacceptable, and we need to change that.
One of my non-black friends and I got into an argument recently, and it's really stuck with me. She describes herself as an activist, and we got into this argument about what activism is and what it looks like. She started quizzing me, asking me, what is this obscure law from 18 whatever that encourages the school to prison pipeline, and how do you envision that it impacts today? And I was like, girl, what? Like, I don't even know what that is. I've never even heard of that. I'm getting my PhD in clinical psychology, not law. And because I admitted that, she proceeded to start making fun of me, and she said that I wasn't a good black person and that I wasn't supporting my community. And she said it's just ridiculous that as a black person you would decide to go into academia because academia and activism are antithetical to each other. I just felt like there's so many problems in that whole thing. All of that happened. Not only are you telling me that my life decisions are not okay, but also, you're telling me as a non-black person what it's okay for a black person to do and how black people should be supporting other black people, furthering the cause for black people. How would you know? You don't know. You're not black. And who gave you permission and the power to be comfortable saying that to a black person's face? It points to this larger problem. Why is it that non-black people think it's okay to tell a black person how to think, how to feel, how to react or behave after 400 plus years of intergenerational trauma from slavery, from Jim Crow laws, from police brutality? Why do you think that it's okay for non-black people to ever feel it's appropriate to tell a black person that you're not helping your community? Why is it that non-black people think it's ever okay to shame a black person because they aren't doing activism in the way that they, as a non-black person who doesn't experience this stuff every single day and have to pick up the pieces of your own heart, mind, and soul, think it's appropriate for my black community? That is ridiculous. My activism is interwoven in everything I do. Every single aspect of my education is the way that I do activism. It's in the classes that I take, the way I teach undergraduates, the research projects that I propose, the places I decide to do therapy, being in meetings when I'm the only black person in the room and I still speak up and say when things are not okay, even though that's at great risk to me as a black person and as a woman, because I'm also usually one of the few women in the room. How dare you tell me that my activism doesn't count because I'm not doing it the way you, as a non-black person, does it? The way I decide to help my people and the way I decide to express my blackness is not up to you. And until you learn that, it's really gonna be an addition to the whole problem here.
There's a lot of people who have grown up being taught things that are just not right. And whether that's you or somebody that you know, it's our responsibility to educate ourselves and the people around us, because that's the only way that things are going to change for the better. Anyway, I guess that's it for this video. So until next time.
And I say, give a little love, give some love, gotta love right